Hello, my name is Greg Kovacs. I'm a master's student at the University of Maryland, University College, Data Management and Visualization course, Data 620, Section 9080, in the fall of 2017, and my professor is Prasanna Mehta. What I am doing in this project is taking a look at the beer and craft beer industry to just help me understand some trends that might be going on in that industry. It's certainly an interest of mine, and it's been interesting to watch the industry make the changes it has in the past 10 years or so. So I did pull some data from the United States Department of Treasury Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau between 2007 and 2010, just to begin my research on this topic. And I will note that craft brewers in the industry are typically defined as those brewers brewing less than 6 million barrels of beer per year. So this first graph that I've put together is a very basic line graph with some trend lines, and these are linear trend lines, just to give me a feel for what's going on here in the industry. And the first thing I notice, of course, here is in 2009, there's these really interesting peaks in the craft beer industry. And I'm not really sure what that is. We know that there has certainly been a growing interest in the craft beer industry, but I am curious and would like to look farther into what this is. The data that I have here really doesn't allow me to conjecture too much into that. So what the data I have is giving me is a number of breweries for each year, taxable removals, essentially beer sold locally, total barrels, and total beer exported. All right. So again, I'm seeing some trending here. Certainly the number of breweries in the craft beer industry have increased over the past 10 years or so. This is a pretty significant p-value, well under 0.05, and the R-squared is fairly strong as well, suggesting to me that this line is a pretty good fit for the data, and that it's a significant, statistically significant increase in the number of breweries between that time frame. Not seeing as much going on as far as significant changes and trending goes in the other categories. Taxable removals have been fairly consistent in both industries over the past 10 years or so. Again, this peak is still looming and telling us something. Not sure what that is. And total barrels, very similarly, we're not seeing anything too significant going on here. I will note that total barrels brewed and taxable removals, very similar lines going on in these two areas. I will also note that in the total shipped or exported area, we're seeing, I suppose as we would expect in the mass production industry, we're seeing an increase in the amount of beer exported, whereas in the craft brewing industry, we're seeing a decrease or something more stable, and that's expected. We're not seeing a lot of craft brewers exporting their beer. Okay. But I am curious again, as I said about this 2009, I did take it out in the next slide here, and I just wanted to sort of see what would happen, sort of hoping it would have an impact, and it really has not. Again, this is the only slide in which I excluded 2009, but I was curious, and if we compared these two, with and without 2009, these trend lines and their significance are not going to change by very much at all. So that was somewhat disappointing. So apparently that 2009 increase didn't have a tremendous impact overall. Moving on to our forecasting, and I did use again, the linear trend lines along with the forecasting capabilities of Tableau to um, to show that in most categories here, there, at least in two of the categories, there's not anything too significant going on. Taxable removals, we're not seeing anything as far as increases or decreases, and a fairly wide band here, suggesting to us that this isn't a very powerful a forecaster of taxable removals. However, up here we're seeing this. This, by the way, is a 95% confidence interval for the forecasted line on the predictor, and this again is a significant increase, and it continues to increase through 2018. So that's good news for those of us who enjoy our craft beer. And we're not seeing anything real significant in the way of the mass production industry. There's no significant increase in or decrease in the forecast for that industry. Going down to total shipped, we're seeing in the exported area, as we saw before, an increase here in the mass-produced industry, and there is a little bit of a forecasted dip here in 2017, and then going toward 2018, we're seeing an increase once again. And likewise, interestingly, in the craft beer industry, we're seeing maybe a little bit of an increase in the numbers of exported craft beer. And again, consistent with the numeric forecast that Tableau offers us. And in the yellow here, we're seeing an estimate of the various measures. And as the previous charts were showing us, in both industries, both the taxable removals and total barrels has forecasted to be the same. Whereas in total shipped, both of the industries are showing an increase or decrease. In the case of the craft brewing industry, we're seeing a rather significant increase in the total exported beer, as opposed to a slight decrease, I suppose, in the mass brewing industry. So that concludes my presentation. Again, it's an interesting topic and certainly worth further exploration. Thank you.